Okay, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. You can stop these videos and look at them as you want. I started here in Civil 3D at home, but it works the same as AutoCAD. If I go ahead and change that workspace tab, that's called the drafting annotation. I want to first get rid of show you all the layers that are on this drawing. We don't want them all, so I'm going to go first into the layer command, which is right here. You can kind of click on the layer command, right? And I can now say right click, I think, select all but current, and then I can do right click and delete layer, and I'm going to delete them all. Yes, close. They're all pretty much, almost all of them are deleted. I can go ahead, try that again, click. I'm going to go down everything but 0. I'm going to click, go down to the bottom and hold shift, click, right click, and delete the layer. Right, and it didn't let me delete any of them. They must be locked, which is not a good thing. So that said, no big deal. I can go File, New. I need to know where my templates are. You do not, but you should start to know where they are. My templates are out in this thing, on this computer, in a drive called K drive. Right here, I've stored them, and I'm going to go to the decimal feet one. It should look very similar to what we have on campus. Hit cancel here when you're working at home, and go over here and close that out. So now the amount of layers I have are still wrong drawing. Try this one more. I shouldn't have said cancel. File, New. We're going to go to the right spot, which is on this drive. Mark Patak, K drive, architectural feet, open, and I'm going to say continue here. So that was what I messed up. You've got then something, understanding getting your layering right to start is an important thing. If you don't, you can keep going and clean it up later, but that kind of gets this thing that get talking about standards and like. So remember, you can go back and forth from model to paper, all kinds of different things you can do here. We generally want to look in the black space here. Escape, 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 Z space, E space. When you get to layering here, I'm going to go ahead and show you that this is what it looks like on the ribbon. You never want to lose all of your toolbars, so we're going to type -tool bar, and we're going to bring up the draw toolbar immediately. Show that one. We're going to right click on a toolbar, go ahead and do the modify off on the right click on a toolbar, and bring up layers. And you can start to remember, we'll start setting machines up so it remembers which toolbars you have on. It's really useful to think about later on the ribbon being used for another software program. Alright, so now we can finally look at our layers and see what we have and see if it is like, yep, pretty much if you look at it, remember the object is, we don't want that to be frozen. The center line in class, we saw, I'm going to shift that right now because of that intersection thing. We could go ahead and change the line types here, but before we do that, we probably want to save a layer manager state right now. So we're going to save a layer manager state. We'll call that plot view, and we are going to just save right over the top of it. This is a weird interface. Sometimes you say save, sometimes you say new, but you'll catch the drift. But that's an important thing. It will remember what's current, what's what's on, what's red, what's blue, what the line types are, what the line weights are, all this different stuff that's kind of preset for you as you change them. And right now I'm just going to kind of show you there's all kinds of ways to go to make your layer current, but I'm going to double click on the view here. Now the next thing I draft will be on the view layer. So I'm going to take that box here, which I really don't need anymore. I'm hitting now the delete key, and I'm going to go ahead and just draft my box like I did in class. I click on it once, I then type at 10, 10. I'm in a decimal drawing and it made the box. In class I said, I want to actually put some center lines or some reference lines from the corner of the box to the corner of the box. Shift right click. These are all habits. Drafting a box that's larger than the box that you are drafting. Slightly larger is an important thing. I don't need in the end that extra line going across because I can find the midpoint of that. I grab everything. You see the midpoint then has a blue snap on it, a blue grip. So now I left click on that, space bar I get to the point where I want to move something, and then I can just say not at this time, but 0, 0, and hit a return. That puts that in the right spot. You'll notice that I'm having some of these go on and off. That quick properties is great. Sometimes it gets in the way. Other times you'll learn to click that off. My next step in this drawing was then to draw a circle, if you remember. Shift right click. I'm going to put it on the wrong layer and then show you that it's pretty easy to go ahead and change things as you get going, but you do want to start to really put things on different layers as you go. From the midpoint of that, and the one in class was, I think, a radius of 4 feet or 5 feet. I can click on that, as you remember. I can right click, change the properties. That's a great thing for the quick properties. I can do all kinds of things, but I'm going to just go ahead and turn on quick properties and show you that's going to be one of the better ways to actually change your layer. So I'm going to put that on the object layer. Hit an escape. It's done. Remember, there was a couple more lines I wanted from this, the 90 and the 0 angle line. I'm still on center line, not a bad idea. Shift, right click from the midpoint of that. All kinds of ways to go over here. I can really get used to saying at and say maybe I'm going to make that 15 at an angle of 0. And not a bad way if you want to turn something 90 degrees. I highlight it, I left click, spacebar, C for copy, 90 degrees. Alright, we've drafted out these things. If you remember in class, we were having problems with that intersection, so we decided, well, the layers or the settings for the layers were not the way we liked. So we kind of can go back into here, layer, and we can change a few of them. Like center, we can make it to be a continuous, and we can make hidden to be a continuous line. Even though later we'll want to set things back, we can set them back because we had a couple of layer manager things. So I'm going to go to layer states manager, and I'm going to say this time new, and I'm going to say updated no underscore special underscore lines. Now that is pretty odd that AutoCAD doesn't know that a dashed line is a line sometimes, but I'm just going to hit here, hit close. Now that's going to remember what I did, which means later on up here, if you see these layer states, I can very quickly go to the plot view layer state and type regen, and I have to go to the plot view and the updated no special lines later state, and I can either go regen or click around on these tabs here, and it's going to do it. So this is what we have. Finally, we remembered in class, we're almost getting there. We wanted to make a tooth of a certain degrees. In class, you had to know that you want to pre-calculate very often, or get used to knowing that if you're going to divide a circle up, you need to know that a circle is 360 degrees or 2 pi radians. So I was going to divide mine into 60 teeth. So the way I can do is I can grab that, I can left click, spacebar, get to the rotate, say C for copy, rotate. In this case, I'm going to go in a clockwise direction, so -6 degrees. I have that there. I go ahead and I'm going to turn this quick properties. You can see how obnoxious it gets. I'm going to offset 1 because that was the size of my tooth, right? That box I don't really need anymore, so I could actually go into this layer command again. I could use one of these toolbars and go ahead and freeze that layer. Right, now the last thing was to draft on layer 0. We used junk and a few things. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and draft on this layer, and then I'm going to use the bpoly command to make it a polyline, closed polyline. So I'm going to say line from the shift right click, the intersection of that, make my tooth pretty boring, to the intersection. Finally, change my layer to 0. Use that great command, which is bpoly. Pick my points, that puts that on layer 0. I can now say -B, block name tooth. Insertion point is the intersection here. Select my objects. There it goes. I can now go finally -layer, new tooth. And now I've got a new layer, -layer, color, tooth, blue. Showing you different things as I try to get through here. I'm going to erase out those special lines I did. insert instead of minus, insert, grab your block. Okay, put it to the intersection here. Finally, minus array, select my object, polar array, endpoint here, or the spinny point is where you want to bring it. Number of items, mine was 60, 360 in between. Rotate the objects, and there you have it. That's what we did. We'll play more of that later. Thanks for listening.